In our previous videos, we were looking at the external route, hiring someone else to do research by creating a request for proposal. Well, now let's go internal. Let's look at what if we in our organization have an idea for a research project. We're going to look at the internal process by first looking at the document called a research request. Essentially, the research request is to get permission from the higher ups, the stakeholders that will be funding it or giving you time away from your other duties. And so it is a request to do the research project. And then we'll look at a research proposal. Whether you are hiring someone with an RFP or whether you're getting permission internally, there's going to be a proposal. If it is you requesting from your boss to do research, so you've initiated a research request, you're drafting the proposal. If you're going external and you are doing a RFP, a request for proposal, then those third parties, those other companies or researchers will give you a proposal. So we need to talk about what goes in a proposal. All of this is before we start doing collection of data, analysis, and recommendations. So I'm sorry, these videos, they're a bit of a slog at the beginning as we go through the documentation before we start getting into actually analyzing and collecting data. All right, so let's look first in this video at a research request. All right, so let's define a research request. And again, these slides were really kind of geared for marketing research, but even if you're not focused on marketing, you work for a nonprofit, you have nothing to do with sales, maybe you are looking at your health clinic and how to improve its operations or your patient's health or your patient satisfaction, any of those might require a research project. And if you have to get approval from the higher ups to do the research, you're going to create a research request. So we have this label marketing research in front of it, but regardless of what type of research organization you have, if you are trying to internally get permission to do a research project, you're writing a research request. And they look the same. All right, so a research request is an internal document. That internal document is going to describe the research project, its benefits, because remember, you're trying to get your boss to approve you to be away from your regular work or to provide money for this particular project. So what are the benefits to the organization? And the cost. So estimated, that's not an I, estimated. All right. So to get approval, right? So your research project, because it's going to take you away from your job or cost money, time, resources, it must be formally improved. And really you're conveying why this is critical to the organization. When it comes to a research request, there are a couple of components you should find inside of it: action, origin, information, use, target group, logistics, and additional comments. So let's define each of those. So let's start with action. This is what will your organization do based on the data that is analyzed and the recommendations that come out of it. So what will the organization do based on your findings from your research? The origin is that background, that context, the events that led to the project. Okay, so events that led to, really, we're tying it back to the organization's decisions they're going to make based on this information. So events that led to need a decision. So there's some kind of opportunity, there's some kind of problem, right? Remember back to this management decision problem. There's something that led to a need for a decision, which then led to a need for information to make that decision. And then the action will be, what are they going to do? What's the decision that we'll make? And what will happen based on the information that's being collected. So information here is going to be the questions that need to be answered. This is going to determine the type of data we collect, the research design, the research method, the sampling method is really going to depend on what kind of information do we need. If we are brainstorming, it's going to be more exploratory data analysis. If we need to test out whether or not a particular treatment is effective, is this particular drug going to actually increase quality of life? Then we have a causal or experimental design. If we are going to need information that about what people do, but it's not something that people necessarily recall, so it's more of an automated process, then we need observational research, right? That research method then is tied to the type of data. If we need people's feelings, how they feel about things, their opinions, more surveys, descriptive research methods. So the type of method, the type of design, how we're going to collect that sample is really going to be based on what are the questions that need to be answered. And then we want to tie that back to how this info is going to help make a decision. Okay. So again, tying it back to what is the end, the value added to the organization, why do they need this to be done? We will specify that target group. So who is that population that we need information from? Do we need information from current clients as to their satisfaction with the services we're providing? Do we need it from potential clients? What if we offered additional services? Would people be interested? Do we need information from people who are currently using a particular medical treatment to see if our additional, maybe we're looking at proposing a nutrition, a health plan, a nutrition plan that we think would add to and increase the benefit of certain medications. And so our target group there is going to be just the people who are on that medical treatment. We might have a control group, which is the group not on the medical treatment, to see if there is that difference there. Or we might be doing it solely with those people getting medical treatment, and some would get the nutrition plan and some wouldn't. So again, experimental design or experimental research method, causal design. In this case, that target group is those who are on that particular drug treatment. So we need to specify who it is who's going to be involved in this study. And then we need some logistics. What's the time period in which this is going to happen? What is the budget that we're going to need? And then any additional comments. This is to help people understand. We want to make sure people fully understand the nature of the research problem. Any additional information about how the research is going to work, how it's going to help solve problems or create opportunities for the organization. All right, so actually let's look at an example of a research request. So in this particular example, here we have a research request presented to Stillwater Domestic Violence Services. Here's the background information. Okay, so our origin, the events that led up to need this decision. And then we have this management decision problem. Why aren't more students utilizing our services? So this is all driving us to need to do this research. And here we have converted that management decision problem into a research problem. We're going to need to investigate student awareness, determine incident levels of domestic violence, determine student satisfaction. This is here, while they've labeled this the research problem. Our research problem is usually a bit more broad that encompasses it. And then these are really what objectives, determine the so we will know our research project is successful if we have investigated student awareness, determined incidence levels, of those different products. So here we're looking at the information, the questions that we need answered. Here you have the use, how information will help in their decision making. What is the target group that this information needs to be collected from? Logistics here in terms of time and budget. So again, what we should see is what are the actions based on the research? What events have led to needing this research? Questions that need to be answered, how any of this information will help make those decisions, who do we need the information from, how much is it going to cost, how long is it going to take, and any other context that needs to be provided. So internally, we would create a document that would lay out what are we planning to do, how long will it take, who's involved, and ultimately what's the value added to the organization so we can get approval for creation of the research project. But the research request isn't the nitty-gritty details of the research itself. For that, we need to create a research proposal. And so in our next video, we'll create a research proposal.